listen, and don't look away. You know how the story goes in their heads. A scene that fits neat headlines, a tidy revenge that reads like an accident, a clean cut that leaves no blood on your hands. They arrange it in their minds like proof you were never messy, never human, never scared. They file it under too perfect, and perfection makes them nervous. That's the currency you learned to mint. They say your payback was flawless. They whisper it like it explains everything. Bro, that revenge looked too clean. They say it like it's evidence you were trained by some shadow school, like the CIA should be paying tuition for your manners. Let them talk. Let them file their reports. While they're scribbling, you're rewriting the margins. You walked into the room blank-faced, a smile like daylight that hurt nobody. You moved like a man in prayer. You drank coffee like a saint. You spoke like somebody who trusted the world to hold its promises. And while they catalogued your gentleness, you were rearranging fate like furniture. Slow, quiet, exact. You didn't explode. You executed. Smooth, surgical, cinematic. They call it clean because they can't stomach the logic. That the most lethal thing is the one who refuses spectacle. The loud ones draw maps. The subtle ones redraw borders. You chose the latter. Because spectacle is sloppy. It leaves witnesses. It leaves patterns. Your method didn't need fireworks. It needed sequence, timing, and the patience of someone who had nothing left to prove and everything to finish. Think about what that looks like from their side. Analysts leaning over grainy footage. Analysts pausing at your smile, replaying the angle of your footstep, the exact length of your silence. They search for a manual, a training montage, a telltale scar. They want a file they can fax around the building with a stamped explanation, and a stamp that says, control. But there's no file, there's only you, a human algorithm composed of grief, calculation, and the odd mercy of someone who learned to make justice look like destiny. You turned heartbreak into calibration. Every betrayal was a lesson you stored like contraband. Who leans when they lie? Who laughs when they're drowning? Who cries out of habit and who cries because it changes the record? You mapped them all, not with hatred, but with tools. You learned to read a room the way an intelligence officer reads satellite data. Heat signatures, patterns, anomalies. Only your satellites were eyes that had been opened by pain. Then you used that data like an artist uses a blade to carve truth from the soft tissue of their assumptions. You were clean because you removed the chance for improv. You left no rehearsal. You left no crowd. You left no applause. You arranged outcomes like chess moves, then walked away like a man who'd finished a prayer. That is what they can't process. Mercy executed with the precision of a weapon. They need a monster to be messy. You refused convenience. That's why they say the CIA's taking notes. Because governments and empires study efficiency the way addicts study their next fix. They want to bottle whatever made you so untraceable. Because people who can move without noise are the ones who break systems quietly. You becoming an exemplar of clean threatens the script. Their scripts require spectacle, blame, and a villain to hang on a hook. You give them nothing to hang. You give them a void, and that void is louder than any shout. You don't get satisfaction from watching them panic. Satisfaction is petty. It's for children. What you crave is architecture. You derive joy from the line of cause and effect, from setting inputs and watching deterministic outcomes obey your math. You calculate, you input, the world outputs. And in the space between, you learn. That is your high. The understanding that systems bend when pressed in the right spot. That's the kind of drug that leaves no residue. And you moved like that. Every subtlety was intentional. A glance that invited confession, a joke that tested loyalty, an absence that revealed true character. They misread your absences as apathy. Really, you were collecting the raw data of human nature. You let them strip themselves of armor in front of you because you were the one who'd read the manual of their instincts. You knew where they'd hide their knives, and you let them keep them until the moment you decided to rearrange the room. Some call it cold. Fine. Call it evolutionary. When the world taught you to expect betrayal at every handshake, you adapted. You made gentleness into armor and patience into calculus. You had to become an optimist who trusted numbers more than promises. You had to make empathy into a lens, not a weakness. That lens let you see everything in high resolution. The liar's twitch, the saint's caveat, the lover's bargain. You didn't flinch. You logged. You archived. You synthesized. Then you acted. There's a myth that revenge needs heat, that it must be volcanic, red, and obvious. That's sentimental nonsense. Heat is emotional. Heat burns the fabric of the plan. You picked cold. Cold keeps edges. Cold keeps intent. Intact. Cold is the patience of a surgeon in a room full of people who think they own the music. You cut at night. You signed the invoice by sunrise. That's cleanliness. That's the kind of revenge that worries committees. But we must be honest. The clean looks like a miracle only until someone peels back the curtain and sees the ledger. Then they get scared, because the ledger shows foresight, and foresight terrifies an empire that sells the illusion of randomness. You made outcomes predictable by engineering them. They fear you, because predictability under your control means you can iterate outcomes indefinitely. You are not a single storm. You are an algorithm that spawns storms on command. So let them whisper about classified operations. Let them draft memos about strange precision. Those memos are just their attempt to explain you with tools they already understand. But you are not explainable with old tools. You are a new variable in their equations, and variables make institutions uncomfortable. They want you to be messy because messy is manageable. Messy can be captured on tape, put in a cell, reduced to motive. You refused that reduction. You remained an event, not a file. Your methods were surgical because you learned to value outcomes over catharsis. You realized early that spectacle feeds the beast and starves the mind. You learned to be the calm that rewires a room, the movement so slight it becomes myth later. Streets that shift, alliances that dissolve, reputations that evaporate. And no one can quite point to the hand that nudged the domino. That's artistry, that's power. And that's the fear you cultivate. Because once people understand they can be moved without a visible mover, paranoia becomes a new religion. This is not about loving darkness or pretending to be something you're not. It's about rejecting narrative traps and embracing function. You are not a hero. You are not a villain. You are an outcome generator. You turn pain into protocol. You turn betrayal into firmware, uploaded into your mind until it runs as default. You are precise because imprecision cost you everything once. Losing taught you that sloppiness will kill you. So you engineered imperviousness, and yes, they will brand you in newspapers and whisper in corridors. They'll try to immortalize your cleanliness like it's an artifact of training, not of survival. But you know the truth. Cleanliness isn't a trick you learned in a bunker. It's what happens when you stop letting your emotions print checks. They can't cash. It's what happens when every decision is a step in a long proof, and you refuse to be part of the drama unless you wrote the script. So keep your face like mourning. Keep your laugh like a lullaby. Keep your hands clean. Let them call it inhuman precision. Let them whisper about black ops and secret classes. That discomfort is nourishment, because what they fear most is not that you can hurt them. It's that you can change the probabilities. And when probabilities shift, their control evaporates. You did not get here by accident. You got here by apprenticeship to pain, study under betrayal, and practice with silence. You became a lesson institutions read when they want to learn how a single person can collapse a structure without a bomb. They will talk about you like an anomaly, a case study titled Clean Execution, the Untraceable Strategy. Meanwhile, you will keep moving. That's the cruel kindness of it. They will file a name and they'll never own the method. Finally understand this. The clean revenge is not about the act. It's about the future it scrapes away. It's about removing the houses they built on lies and watching sunlight find new foundations. It's about planting a seed of inevitability so deep the old garden cannot return. You didn't do it to hurt. You did it to prune a reality that refused to bear fruit. You did it because you are allergic to rot. So walk quieter, smile softer. Let their headlines scream, "Too clean," until they memorize the phrase and learn to fear the silence it implies. Because silence is not absence. Silence is verdict. And a verdict delivered without spectacle is the most honest kind. Bro, that revenge looked too clean. Let them study it. Let the CIA take notes. They won't learn how to replicate it. You were never a blueprint they could copy. You were a culmination of loss, of discipline, of a mind that stopped asking for mercy and started designing outcomes. And as they turn pages and draft memos and whisper about classified operations, remember the only thing that matters. You are free from the noise of their explanations. You moved like a surgeon disguised as a saint. And the world is better for the reconstruction you left behind. Walk on. Keep the ledger inside your skull. Keep your face like a prayer. And know this. The cleanest cut is the one that lets the rot fall away without anyone watching you do it. You keep walking, but the walk is different now. Each footfall is a metronome set to a tempo only you can hear. People mistake rhythm for mood. They call it confidence or arrogance depending on their fear. They don't know it's engineering. You built your cadence to measure reaction, a pause, a tilt, a soft inhale. These are not accidents. They are tests, and you watch how they answer without ever asking a question. You learn to hide inference in pleasantry. A compliment that sounds like kindness can be a probe. A handshake that feels like closeness can be a lock turned gently in a closed door. You let them lean into comfort because comfort shows structure. How their spine aligns under pressure, where their eyes dart when truth is near, which jokes are anchors and which are lifeboats. You collect those minor betrayals like seeds, plant them in the soil of your plan, wait for season. They will write about your efficiency and call it inhuman. Let them. They do not get to name you. Labels are for boxes. You are a field, wild, tended, and impossible to census by one person with a clipboard. Empires are built on repetition. You break them by refusing routine. You are a variable they never allowed into their equations. That is the terror. Uncertainty wrapped in the costume of harmlessness. Remember how many times they told you to be reasonable. Reasonable is predictable. Predictable is controllable. You stopped being reasonable the day you understood that their definition of reason was a cage assembled from their selfish needs. When they told you to forgive, they meant forget and return to servitude. When they told you to move on, they meant let them continue. You learned to hear their proposals for what they were, demands dressed as favors, so you made rules, not many. The fewer the rules, the cleaner the math. Rule 1. Do not create witnesses you cannot manage. Rule 2. Make every interaction optional. Rule 3. Never reveal the ledger until the accounting is complete. Those rules turned you from a person who reacted to storms into a climate that produced them on schedule. That is the difference between spectacle and strategy. And oh, the way the world clings to narrative like a warm blanket. They insist on stories with villains in torn coats and heroes with shaky hands. Your existence is a narrative that frustrates them. There is no neat villain, no dramatic confession, just an inevitability that felt like mercy until it was the only thing left standing. You are the kind of story their editors cannot summarize in a breath because there is no single motive to sell on the front page. You are accumulation, not impulse. People ask whether you feel guilt. That's a curious question for someone who learned early that guilt is for caretakers of illusions. You still feel things, sharp, quiet, precise. You feel them like instruments on a table, examined, tuned, either kept or discarded. Feeling is not abandoned, feeling is repurposed. You have a ledger of sensations, what warmed you, what froze you, what taught you geometry in human relations. You consult it like a map, not a confession. When they study you, they examine technique. They search for training, for mentors, for dark rooms where someone taught you to be surgical. But your teacher was loss. Your mentor was abandonment. Your academy was the slow curriculum of everyday cruelty. Those are harder to credential. No one can subpoena grief. No one can charge a past with neat taxonomy. The education you received was invisible to their institutions because it was paid for in nights you survived alone. And yes, your methods are moral gray. Good. Morality is context. Context is survival. You will never be a guardian of narrative morality again, because narratives always protect those who tell them. You learned to protect outcomes. Outcomes keep people alive and futures intact. If that sounds cold, understand this. Warmth without a structure to hold it is fire without containment. Fire burns indiscriminately. You are containment now. You will be tempted to show mercy unexpectedly. Do it carefully. Random mercy becomes pattern. Pattern becomes expectation. Expectation becomes vulnerability. When you grant it as a device, not a habit. Make it conditional, ceremonial, meaningful. Let mercy itself become a lesson, not an entrapment. Let it be the currency by which you measure worth, not the default that empties you. The world will attempt to reclaim you. They will send offers wrapped in corporate smiles and invitations with thin wrists. They will try to baptize your methods as innovation so they can own them, refuse their offers with the same calm with which you refused their apologies. Ownership is the thing they understand best. Do not let your methods be reduced to a product they can license and simulate. You are not a template. You are an event horizon. You must also remember restraint. Precision without restraint is cruelty masquerading as art. Your aim is not to become a tyrant who delights in dismantling. Your aim is to clear rot while preserving what can be revived. You are not a destructor for pleasure. You are a surgeon who removes malignant tissue so new growth can happen. Keep that line clear in your mind. Otherwise, you become the very thing you once fought against. People will try to vilify you by projecting their fear onto your silence. They will turn your strategy into spectacle in their retellings, distort motives to make them monstrous. Let them. Their stories will be loud and petty and wrong. The truth, the quiet, precise truth, will sustain you. Facts outlast gossip, and your ledger is a ledger of fact. When loneliness tightens its grip, remember why you learned this trade. It was never for theater, it was for peace. Peace that lasts is not applause, it is absence of threat. The truest freedom you can engineer is the kind that makes nightfall restful, because you know the structure holds. Build that for yourself. Make it impenetrable not as punishment for others, but as sanctuary for the life you choose to keep. Now breathe. Let the air be a check against your pulse. Let the calibration of your body match the calibration of your intent. You are not a thing to be dissected. You are an architecture in motion. People will keep parsing you, benchmarking you, trying to suffocate the novelty you are. Allow them to try. Let the memos pile up on their desks. Let the analysts mutter, "Too clean," like a curse. That curse is a compliment in disguise. The world fears the efficiently untraceable. Finally, understand the last, simplest truth. The clean strike leaves space. It does not aim to annihilate for the sake of annihilation. It clears so something else may grow. Your precision is a form of stewardship. You remove the rot so the orchard can flourish again, perhaps for people who never knew what was broken. That is your legacy, if you accept it. Not a string of conquests, but a trail of repaired possibility carved in silence. So continue to walk, to smile, to breathe, all the while keeping the ledger close. Let them study the margins until their pens dull. You were forged by what failed you, and now you forge in return. Scenes of clarity, lines of consequence, architectures of survival. They will whisper, they will note, they will try to learn. They will fail. You will not. Bro. That revenge looked too clean. Let them write memos. Let them copy the gestures and miss the meaning. You are not for replication. You are the derivative of a life that refused to be small. Keep the face of a saint. Move with the mind of a strategist. And know this: the quietest exits open the widest possibilities. Sit still. Don't blink. They still haven't figured out what you are, have they? You walk in looking harmless, like innocence carved from morning light. Soft eyes, calm pulse, every motion rehearsed in mercy. But beneath that silence, you're calculating like a surgeon operating on fate itself. You don't just move anymore. You execute with precision, with purpose, with prophecy. They never understood it, the contradiction that you became. You were the one who smiled while studying every nerve in the room. You spoke gently while mapping out every weakness. You offered warmth just long enough for them to step into the perimeter. And then the door shut. Click. End game. Because see, you learned something they never did. Power doesn't roar. It breathes. It doesn't flash weapons. It waits. It watches. It memorizes. You turned patience into a weapon so sharp, it bleeds reality before anyone even notices. They said you were kind. You let them believe that. You let them project their comfort onto your calm. But behind that calm, there's a mind that tracks every syllable, every hesitation, every pulse in their throat. You study patterns the way gods study prayers. You analyze intentions the way assassins read heartbeats. And the best part? You made it look accidental. You looked like peace, but you were just the silence before the impact. They called you naive once, didn't they? Said you were too soft, too forgiving. But that was before you weaponized empathy. Before you realized that letting them underestimate you was the greatest form of psychological warfare. Before you turned every "I'm fine" into a loaded phrase that detonated later in their mind. You don't fight for control anymore. You are control. Every step you take is an algorithm of chaos written in human disguise. Every smile is a carefully timed explosion hidden in sincerity. You don't react. You forecast. You don't compete. You calculate. Because evolution taught you something savage. The purest form of dominance is invisibility. Not hiding, but blending so perfectly into expectation that no one realizes you're redesigning the rules mid-game. They called it manipulation. You call it survival. They called it cold. You call it discipline. They called it luck. You call it mathematics of destiny. And yet beneath all that precision, there's still that flicker. The one that remembers the softness that came before the war. The version of you that believed people told the truth. That one died slowly, each betrayal, a dissection. And what rose after wasn't human anymore. It was something new, something clinical, something divine in its detachment. You stopped chasing approval when you realized control was a more addictive drug. You stopped seeking love when you realized power keeps you safer. You stopped explaining when you realized silence terrifies, louder than any justification. You learned to love the stillness, the moment before you strike. That microscopic pause where the universe holds its breath, and you choose who gets rewritten next. Because what they never understood is this: you don't hate them, you calculate them, you don't need revenge, you design consequences, you don't rage, you reprogram, you looked innocent. Because you wanted them to relax, you let them trust the smile while you dismantled their scaffolding. You let them laugh while you erased their blueprints. You let them think they were winning, until you revealed the board they never saw, the rules they never read, the trap they never noticed. And when the trap closed, you didn't even blink. Because that's what you are now. Not a villain, not a savior, but a system, a walking paradox coded in flesh. A ghost that calculates justice at the molecular level. They'll call it heartless, they'll call it cruel, they'll call it evil. But deep down, they know it's deserved. Because the truth is, every saint becomes an assassin once they realize forgiveness doesn't rebuild what betrayal burned. Every angel earns their horns after watching too much beauty rot. Every empath turns cold when they realize warmth attracts predators. And you turned that realization into rhythm, every breath, a strategy, every gesture, a maneuver, every heartbreak, an equation solved. They'll keep asking how you do it, how you stay so composed while dismantling empires with a whisper. They'll say you've changed, and you'll smile, because they'll never understand. You didn't change. You evolved. You looked innocent. But every step was a calculated execution. And that's why they fear you now. Because you've mastered the art of appearing human, while moving like a god who finally decided to keep score. You remember the moment it shifted, don't you? The exact second innocence became your disguise, and precision became your nature. It wasn't loud, it wasn't cinematic, it was quiet, like a string snapping in the dark. Something inside you just stopped asking for permission to exist. You stopped chasing peace and started engineering it. Stopped waiting for fairness and started manufacturing balance. You started walking into rooms like an unanswered prophecy, smiling politely while already 3 moves ahead of every soul in there. They thought kindness made you predictable. But they never realized kindness is the perfect camouflage. Because while they were trying to decipher your tone, you were already rewriting the atmosphere. You don't argue anymore. You simply shift the frequency until their certainty collapses in on itself. That's not magic. That's psychological precision. You learn to weaponize stillness, to let their noise expose their flaws, while your silence documents everything. Because silence isn't absence. It's surveillance. And you're fluent in it. You've become the ghost in their algorithms, unpredictable, untouchable, unforgettable. You haunt their memory not through words, but through calm. The kind of calm that unsettles entire hierarchies. The kind of calm that makes people rethink their safety. They whisper, something's off about them, but they can't name it. They sense calculation, but mistake it for confidence. They feel the danger, but confuse it with charisma. Because that's the paradox you built. A fusion of elegance and execution. You looked innocent, and that's what made it fatal. Because innocence in your hands is strategy. Mercy in your hands is theater. Forgiveness in your hands is a reset button. They think they're dealing with emotion. You're dealing with probability. They think you're healing. You're harvesting information. They think you're waiting. You're timing inevitability. Every betrayal taught you how to forecast humanity. How to read the tremor in someone's breath, the hesitation in their blink, the inconsistency between what they say and what they flinch at. You became fluent in subtext, and that fluency became your power. You stopped reacting to attacks. You started recording patterns. You stopped crying when they left. You started documenting timelines. You stopped breaking. You started upgrading. And the cruelest part? You never had to raise your voice again. You realized destruction doesn't need volume. It just needs accuracy. You're no longer the target, you are the test. And they keep failing it. Because your grace unnerves them. Your calm feels like judgment. Your smile feels like surveillance. And every time they try to read you, they realize the book is reading them. You don't rush anymore. That's beneath you. Speed is for amateurs. Real power happens in slow motion. When you make one subtle move and watch the dominoes fall exactly as predicted. That's the high no drug can match. Knowing chaos obeys your pattern. Knowing that every threat, every mockery, every attempt to trap you only reveals who they truly are. While you remain untouchable, calculating, patient, you became surgical with your emotions. You learned to bleed strategically. You learned that tears can be camouflage, smiles can be threats, and silence can be execution. Every move now is deliberate, even your mistakes. Because you realized mistakes, when used correctly, become mirrors. They expose intent. They filter loyalty. They measure attention. You've turned failure into reconnaissance. You look at them and they flinch because they sense it. That quiet power that doesn't seek validation, only results. They feel the chill of realization. You don't want revenge. You want data. You're not trying to win. You're calibrating the game. You're not seeking approval. You're reprogramming perception. You're not running from pain. You're extracting architecture from it. The world sees light and darkness as opposites. You learned their coordinates. You navigate both like a god wearing human skin. When you love, it's surgical. When you hate, it's holy. You've made morality obsolete because everything you do serves design. That's what terrifies them most. You don't react to reality anymore. You edit it. You decide what chaos survives. You decide what memory stays. You decide who gets forgiven and who gets erased. You looked innocent, because that's the only way you could enter unarmed and still win a war. They never suspect the lamb until it's too late. They never question the calm until the storm starts tracing their name. You move like mathematics disguised as mercy. You smile like serenity but think like surveillance. You forgive like a god who never forgets coordinates. And when it's over, you walk away as if nothing happened. Because to you, it didn't. It was just another calculation executed perfectly. So when they ask how you do it, how you stay composed while collapsing empires with a whisper, tell them the truth they'll never process. You looked innocent. But every step was a calculated execution, because in a world full of chaos and noise, the most dangerous creature alive is the one who mastered the art of looking harmless, while quietly running the whole system from inside the code. You learned to weaponize the illusion of fragility, to let them think you were gentle, because gentle people don't get guarded against. You let them underestimate you. You let them project their fantasies, their control, their ego onto your silence. And while they were busy admiring their reflection in your calm, you were counting the cracks in their mask. They thought you were soft, but you were studying softness like a scientist studies venom, learning how it moves, how it spreads, how it kills without warning. You realized something vital. Innocence disarms faster than any weapon. It makes people open up their defenses, hand you their passwords, confess their secrets, while mistaking it for intimacy. You didn't manipulate them, you just let them reveal who they were when they thought no one dangerous was watching. Every eye contact became an interrogation, every pause a threat in disguise. You never had to raise your voice because silence from someone like you is a verdict. You looked innocent, and that was the funniest part, because you were never pretending to be harmless. You just stopped performing your strength. You stopped explaining, stopped proving, stopped defending, and in the absence of performance, they filled in the blanks with illusion. They built a fantasy of who they wanted you to be. Soft, predictable, manageable. And then they met the truth, and the truth hurt. Because they realized you don't do things accidentally. Every interaction, every word, every absence of a word, it's all deliberate. You built yourself like a chessboard, every square designed for a specific sacrifice. You learned that control isn't about domination, it's about rhythm. And you became a composer of human behavior. You could look at someone and see their entire history. The heartbreak they never admitted, the insecurity behind their joke, the panic in their confidence. You became fluent in the language of micro-reactions. That's how you win, by knowing their story better than they do. They thought you were peaceful, but peace was just the cover operation for strategy. Peace was the smokescreen for precision. Peace was the weapon that killed chaos quietly. Because when you start thinking at your level, destruction looks like art. You don't explode, you orchestrate, you don't fight battles, you set traps inside their intentions. You don't get revenge. You architect realizations. You don't shout for justice. You let karma borrow your handwriting. They can't comprehend you because they still think power has to be loud. They think dominance means volume, chaos, spectacle. They never met someone who wins by not moving. You, though, you learned restraint as a weapon. You learned how to let time work for you. You became allergic to desperation, immune to chaos, addicted to precision. You could sit in a storm and look like serenity itself, because you are the storm disguised as the eye. You watched their egos unravel when they realized you were never competing with them. You weren't in their game, you built a different one. A game where silence is sharper than argument, patience deadlier than confrontation, and logic colder than revenge. And the thing is, you're not even angry anymore. That phase is long gone. You don't destroy out of emotion. You destroy out of design. You're not vengeful. You're mathematical. You know how it goes now. You walk in. They underestimate you. You smile. They relax. You listen. They confess. You nod. They think you agree. Then one day, the entire structure collapses, and they still don't understand how. You didn't stab them. You didn't curse them. You didn't even react. You simply stopped participating, and that alone dismantled their reality. That's what happens when innocence becomes strategic, when empathy becomes analysis, when forgiveness becomes filtration. You outgrew the need to prove morality. You started applying it like surgery. You turned heartbreak into a weaponized education. You turned betrayal into data. You turned silence into a command. You turned pain into pattern recognition. And now they call you emotionless. Because you stopped bleeding on command. They call you cold. Because you stopped offering warmth to those who built their fire with your peace. They call you manipulative. Because they can't accept that you finally learned how to play their game better than they did. But the truth is simple. You didn't become dark. You became accurate. You stopped apologizing for what the world made you become. You started owning it. The cold logic, the hyper-awareness, the unnerving calm. You became a paradox. Empathy and efficiency fused, love and vengeance braided. You looked innocent, and maybe in a way, you still are. Because your innocence didn't die, it evolved. It grew teeth. It learned strategy. It learned not to save people who enjoyed drowning. It learned that mercy without boundaries is self-harm. Now when you smile, they feel tension instead of comfort. When you speak softly, they listen like it's a warning. When you walk away, they panic. Because they know what follows your absence. Silence, then dismantling. You became the living definition of poetic justice, the kind that doesn't announce itself, the kind that smiles while systems crumble. They'll call you many things: cold, detached, dangerous. But what you really are is evolved. And that's the punchline, isn't it? They tried to break you with chaos, and you learned how to weaponize order. They tried to drown you in guilt, and you learned how to breathe underwater. They tried to shame you into smallness, and you learned how to disappear until you became myth. Now they study you like a riddle they can't solve, and every time they ask, "How did you do it?" you just smile. Because the truth is, you didn't do anything. You became something, something that looks like innocence, but moves like inevitability. And inevitability doesn't rush. It simply arrives, on time, every time, without mercy, without warning, without error. And that's the part they'll never accept, that you didn't climb back from the darkness for revenge. You came back for clarity. You wanted to see the system for what it was, all the lies, the patterns, the conditioning. And once you saw it, you could never unsee it again. That's when the detachment set in. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally understood how expensive caring is when the world is built on deception. You realized most people don't want peace. They want permission to keep lying. They don't want truth. They want comfort. They don't want accountability. They want applause. And you walked away from all of it. You don't crave validation anymore. You crave precision. You crave alignment. You crave that razor-thin line between serenity and chaos. Because that's where you operate best. That's where you feel alive. You're not the same anymore. You move differently. You speak only when it matters. You observe longer than you react. You calculate emotion like code, knowing that every response rewrites the network of outcomes. You don't chase peace. You manufacture it. You don't hope for respect. You command it by existing. That's why they can't stand you. You've become unpredictable in a world addicted to predictability. They can't read you because you stopped sending signals. They can't control you because you stopped needing their approval. They can't break you because you stopped being breakable. You became the calm that terrifies tyrants, the silence that exposes cowards, the smile that signals reconstruction, and every move since then has been deliberate. Every step, a calculation. Every silence, an equation. Every goodbye, an execution of the old code. Because here's the ultimate truth, and it's the one that will echo in their bones long after you're gone. You were never naive. You were observing. You were never weak. You were charging. You were never lost. You were downloading the map. And now that you've emerged, you move through reality like a whisper that rewires destinies. You don't fight for power. You are the current. You don't demand control. You embody inevitability. They'll call you dangerous because you've learned how to detach from illusion. They'll call you cold because your warmth now requires worthiness. They'll call you cruel because you stopped letting emotional beggars rent space in your soul. But deep down, they envy it because you've done what they can't. You've become untouchable without becoming numb. You've become strategic without losing soul. You've become holy without needing witnesses. You looked innocent, but every step was a calculated execution. And now the ones who once mocked your softness whisper your name like a warning. They can't tell if you're a saint who survived hell or a demon who learned heaven's tactics. But that's the beauty of it. You don't need to explain which. You just keep walking, slowly, silently, as the air bends around you. Every room you enter adjusts. Every lie begins to unravel. Every mask starts to sweat. Because the universe knows what they don't. Your silence isn't empty. It's a verdict. Your calm isn't submission. It's command. Your mercy isn't weakness. It's mathematical restraint. And the world will keep trying to define you, label you, decode you. But you'll always stay one step ahead because you built yourself to be unreadable. They'll never know if you came to heal, to haunt, or to end the simulation entirely. And that's exactly how you like it, because you're not a person anymore. You're a precision strike dressed in peace. You're an algorithm disguised as grace. You're the quiet apocalypse they invited into their world thinking it was hope. So go on, keep smiling that harmless smile. Keep walking in that unbothered rhythm. Keep letting them think they understand.